Hey friends, it's Just the Gems. I'm Brandon. There are a ton of really cool looking JRPGs coming out in the next 6 to 8 months. It's frankly a little bit overwhelming actually. And looking through all of those and seeing all of the cool things we're going to get to play in just a few months, it's frankly crazy. Like I think back to being a kid playing Super Nintendo JRPGs and just being so grateful when a new one came out, even if it was kind of trash. Tecmo Secret of the Stars, anyone? But just like the richness that we are blessed with in the JRPG world is so crazy. It's just so crazy now, right? Insane. But it's kind of come to my attention that there are a handful of upcoming JRPGs that had basically slipped entirely under my radar. And that's because they were funded on Kickstarter. Now, I have a little bit of experience funding games on Kickstarter in the past. What have I done? I did the Myst Collector's 20th anniversary or something, 25th anniversary. 30th anniversary? Gosh, I'm old. I don't know. The big Myst Anniversary Collection, I backed on Kickstarter. There have been a handful of games over the years that I have supported. Not all of them have succeeded, but it's a really cool platform. I feel like it's kind of already had its peak, had its heyday where it was getting a lot of attention. Now it's like just sort of an accepted reality that this is a path that a lot of, especially indie developers, will take in order to gain funding and also show publishers that there's actually interest in what they're developing, right? Like if you have a compelling portfolio and you have a cool looking vertical slice demo, that still in this day and age with all of the content out there might not be enough to convince a traditional publisher that your game is worth investing in. However, doing a Kickstarter and having it blow up and go viral and get thousands and thousands of pledges will function as a pretty good indicator for publishers that maybe you want to pay attention to this game, right? Maybe you want to get in on the ground floor and make some money, right? Let's make some money. Now, I have not personally backed any of these games that I'm going to talk about. Most of them, I think all but 2, I didn't even know about when they were being funded. I had never heard of them. This is just from looking online, checking Reddit and seeing the Kickstarter games that people believe are the most worthy in the JRPG space right now, and kind of picking through those and choosing the ones that I think look the most promising. So this is just my list. If you have any Kickstarter JRPGs that have been funded that are out there, or maybe even those that haven't been funded yet, if I can catch one while it's live and it looks cool, maybe I'll contribute. But let me know in the comments. I would love to find more to get excited about. It's frankly, it's just super cool. Like having done the research to make this video, like I'm kind of just blown away by how strong these offerings look. Now, I know that it's hard to say how much of this is actual gameplay. Is it going to translate well once we get it on our PlayStations or our Switches and sit down in front of the TV with it? Is it going to play as well as it looks? I don't know. I mean, who knows? But I'm optimistic based on what I've seen. So anyway, let's get into the list. Oh, but before we begin, would you mind clicking the like button just so that YouTube will send this video out to interested people? I'd really appreciate it. And also, if you wouldn't mind subscribing if you're not already, that would make my day. So anyway, let's go. Okay, the first one that I want to look at, and this is one of the, I think, 2 that I had heard about prior to doing this research for this video, and that is Alzara. What is it? Alzara Radiant Echoes. One thing that's weird to me is all of these new franchises that have a title and then a subtitle. It's like, I feel like a subtitle makes more sense in a sequel, right? I don't know. Maybe I'm just being picky, but Alzara, maybe Alzara on its own is just kind of a nonsense word, so you want to have Radiant Echoes in there to give me something to hold on to. I don't know, whatever. So this one looks really cool. It's got this really unique setting. I think it's supposed to be based on like Mediterranean sort of landscapes, like south of France, like, I don't know, Corsica or something like that, like kind of these Mediterranean islands sort of feel. And it's really refreshing to see a game like this set in a location like that. Something about the art style, it's really kind of cool, and I don't know how to explain this in a way that will make a ton of sense, but it feels kind of toy-like. There's this kind of sheen to everything that makes everything feel like it's got physicality to it, like they're action figures that are moving around. I don't know, like, and I don't mean that in a way that's like disparaging. Like, I think it's actually really cool. Sort of like how the new Zelda Echoes of Wisdom and the Link's Awakening remake kind of have that toy aesthetic to them. Like, they're not specifically designed to look like toys, but they kind of do, right? There's something about this game that feels similar to me, not to as much of a degree, but similar, and it's something that it's the style that I'm finding I really like. I do see that the music, at least some of it, is being done by Motoi Sakuraba, and I gotta tell you, I'm not a fan. I know he's like beloved. He's a household name almost when it comes to JRPG composers. Honestly, and I'm not trying to be a music snob. Like, I'm not that hard to please. That's the thing. I feel like I'm very easy to please when it comes to this sort of thing. But with Motoi Sakuraba, man, like, I think he had one or maybe two really good game soundtracks, and then he's just been phoning it in for 20 plus years. And his stuff just sounds so generically epic and boring to me. I don't know. That's maybe the spiciest take that I have as a person, is that I don't care for his music. That's all. These battles in Alzara look really cool. I don't fully understand how it works, and I guess we're not supposed to, but this, like, they're so high quality in just the way they appear that I'm like, is this pre-rendered? Is this something that they just put together as a proof of concept for this trailer? Or is this running, like, is the game running right now? Are they capturing footage of the game running? Because this looks really good. Like, it's mind-boggling to me that a team of 13 or 14 people can make something that looks this good when you've got AAA developers that are putting out comparable stuff, but with teams of hundreds or thousands, or it's how do they do it? How do they do it? So that's why I'm kind of wondering, is it real? Is this real footage? I hope it is. I hope it looks as good as this. The swap mechanic that they talk about in the trailer seems interesting, where when you're in the front row, you can attack, but that drains some kind of energy or something like that. Being in the back row allows you to recharge that energy, so you're kind of encouraged to actively swap characters in and out of the front and back to be able to attack and defend and do all these different things. And that's a really cool idea. If it's implemented well, I think that could be a really fun mechanic. I like it when games have mechanics like this and then give compelling and fun reasons to use them in the game. Like, there's some mechanics in JRPGs that are useful, but they're not fun to do. They're not compelling in their own right. And so I will try to find a way to work around those mechanics so I don't have to do them. This one looks like the sort of mechanic that I might try to work around unless it's a compelling and fun thing to do in the game. They make it look fun in the trailer, so maybe it'll be good. But I'm hoping that ends up being like a compelling gameplay mechanic. Oh, and also I guess this has a world map for everybody that complains about how JRPGs don't have world maps anymore and that makes them sad. I'm kind of indifferent to the world map. In my mind, the world map was there to solve a problem, which is that games in earlier eras couldn't show these giant worlds kind of in real time. Like, you wouldn't want to walk across a giant world landscape as a 16-bit sprite because it would take forever and there wasn't a ton of interesting movement that you could do as a sprite. You look at a game like Xenoblade and it's these giant landscapes, but you can run and jump and do all these crazy things, and there's so much to do in the world that it's interesting to do that. I don't think Xenoblade is better if it has a world map. I think the gameplay and the world design solved the problem that the world map was trying to solve in the earlier generations. Now, don't get me wrong, it's nostalgic, and I get that. World maps make me feel a little nostalgic too, but I don't necessarily hold to, oh, I wish JRPGs had world maps again. It's like, well, if it's an indie title, a smaller title, and they don't have the ability to create a Final Fantasy VII Rebirth style world, then sure, world map solves that problem. Anyway, I don't know, this one looks really promising to me. Like, it's really compelling, and I like that. I mean, the characters are practically ancient by JRPG standards. They're in their early 20s? Are you kidding me? Geezers, right? I'm very interested in games now that feature protagonists that are a little bit older, just because I've had I've been a teenager, I've been in my 20s. I'm fine with exploring stories that maybe I can relate to a little more, characters that I can relate to a bit more. So having an older cast works for me. I understand if your mileage may vary on that. Not to say that a teenage cast would be necessarily a detriment. A lot of times these teenage characters in JRPGs are written by 40-year-olds, and so they don't exactly act like teenagers anyway, but regardless, not important. I think the cast looks interesting. The gameplay looks really cool. The world is beautiful. I'll just say I have high hopes for this one. And I think I can still back it. It was funded, but they have late pledges. This is one I might actually go ahead and back if I can get some kind of physical release from it, because it looks really cool. Let me know what you think down in the comments, but I think this one looks really solid. Okay, next up we have LumenTale. Memories of Trey. LumenTale Memories of Trey, another new IP with a subtitle. You know, here I am being a pedant, but that's who I am, and I can't change who I am. So this one's got a kind of an interesting, really colorful art style. Looks like 2D, like pixelated sprites on 3D backgrounds, sort of an Eiyuden Chronicles thing. I think there's at least one or two others on this list that kind of are employing a similar sort of style. I'm afraid it's going to get old, kind of like some people feel like the HD 2D thing is getting old. And I guess HD 2D is just a version of what this is anyway, but it does look really colorful and cool. This one is like a Pokemon clone. So when I initially saw the trailer and was beginning to watch it, like it seemed really cool. And then they made it pretty clear pretty quickly that this is like a Pokemon style game. So I don't know. That's not my genre. I just missed the Pokemon boat. Like I just aged out, I guess, right before it would have caught on and really dug its claws into me. So I don't know. I'm too old, I guess. I'm just too old. One thing that's interesting about this, though, is they're very explicit about saying this on the Kickstarter, is that this is a Pokemon-inspired game, but it's born out of equal parts love for Pokemon and frustration with the direction that Pokemon is going. So that's intriguing to me. A little fan base drama in here to kind of inspire them to say like, okay, I don't like what Pokemon's doing. I'm going to make my own Pokemon and make it the way that we think it should be made. That's kind of interesting. I'm not, like I said, I'm not a Pokemon player, so I don't have a horse in that race. I don't know whether the new ones are good or bad. And maybe you can tell me what you think in the comments, but I don't know. Pokemon is just, I'll take your word for it. So these Pokemon characters in this game are called Animon, which, is that just animal monsters? That's not the most creative name, right? Animal monsters. Animon, or animated monsters, I don't know. But these creatures have some sort of magical energy inherent to them that can affect people's emotions and actions or something like that. They're able to somehow interact with the souls of other living things. So they seem a little bit more, there's a little more depth there than just like a Pikachu roaming in the field and shooting lightning and stuff. So I don't know how that plays into the story. I'm sure it does, but it's an interesting little, I guess, quirk to the characters in the world. The storyline too, like the backstory, feels a little bit deeper than what at least I associate with a Pokemon game. Like there was an empire that was this big world-spanning empire, and then there was some internal conflict that split the empire in two. So there are these two nations that were at war with each other. And then this third party group came along and sort of mediated peace or something like that. I'm trying to remember it off the top of my head. And like now you kind of work for this third organization. That's what are they called? There's the Lumen from the LumenTale. So these Lumen people capture and fight with these Animon to keep the peace or whatever. Another thing that's interesting here is you have essentially your Pokeball, which is called a Holoken, something. And you can actually use this thing to solve puzzles in the world. It looks like it can maybe break things or move things or whatever. Like there's different things you can do with it aside from just catch your monsters with it. So that's cool. Adds another element of puzzle solving, something else to do in the world besides just like push a box or something, which most games at least throw in. So that's cool. And I mean, like the turn-based combat is probably the thing that looks the most like Pokemon to me. It's stylish and kind of cool looking. Some of the animations in the trailer at least didn't really blow my mind, but you choose from a list of moves that your monster has and they attack, and there's, I'm assuming, weaknesses, elemental differences and things like that. So it's not really breaking any ground from what I can see on the battle side. But if you're a Pokemon fan and you haven't heard of LumenTale, you might want to check it out just because it seems like it's doing some stuff in that space. Some stuff that maybe the Pokemon games proper aren't doing anymore. And that's kind of why they're making this game, is they want to solve whatever problem it is that they see happening in the Pokemon games. Again, like I said, no horse in this race. I am happy if you love Pokemon. I won't disparage it. I think it's great, but it's not really for me. So I'll probably give this one a miss, but if you're into Pokemon, you might want to check it out. Okay, this next one is another kind of really like interesting setting, which automatically intrigues me. And then there's a whole lot of other interesting elements to it that really make me want to give it a second look. This one is called like Bestiario. I think I'm saying that right. I think it's supposed to be Spanish. So it takes place in like a representation of Spain. So it's using Spanish folklore and mythology and basing the game and the characters and the creatures around that, which again is just like, it's not something that has really been done in video games to my knowledge, at least. But it's like, that's such a cool thing to do, to highlight all these different cultures and give us something different. Like, I've seen the Norse gods a billion times. I'm fine with the Norse gods. The Norse gods can take a break. Odin, you've earned some time off. Give me some of these weird Spanish gods. Like, that's cool. The art style in this game sort of reminds me of, and I don't know if anybody's going to agree with this, but for some reason when I first saw it, it reminded me of like a Saturday morning cartoon. Again, in a good way, right? Like, this is, I don't really know how to explain it. It's very reminiscent to me of a Saturday morning cartoon sort of style. And I don't know, I like that a lot. So from what I understand, having read a little bit on the Kickstarter page, the art style they're going for is sort of like Mega Man Legends, where you've got your 3D character models and then they've hand painted them pixel style. So you have this kind of pixelated look, but it's clearly a 3D model. And that's a really cool art style that I don't feel like very many games have done, have they? Like, obviously Mega Man Legends, those games. Have any other games done that? Let me know in the comments if you can think of any. I'm just trying to pull any off the top of my head and I'm coming up with nothing. I know there gotta be some more, but it's such a cool art style and I'm glad to see that they're embracing that. Also, there's this very good doggo. I love this very good doggo. That's just, I'm saying that so that you will know that I'm a millennial without question. If you're a Gen Z, you've never said the word doggo in your life and you've rolled your eyes so hard that they've disappeared into the back of your skull. And I'm sorry about that. But yes, I'm a millennial, so I say things like doggo and whatnot. Like, that's how I define myself generationally. So I apologize for being that way. Also, I think the dog is his sister. That's how the dog is listed on the Kickstarter. The main character's sister. It's got these chain arms, so it can like pick stuff up with its chain arms, and it looks like a good dog. I like dogs. So battles here are really reminiscent of Grandia. And that's such a cool inspiration to take. So Grandia and this game actually have this system where your characters are moving along this action bar. As soon as you get to the action point near the end of the bar, you can put in your action, attack, magic, whatever. And then you have to wait until it moves into the final section. And during that time, while it's moving into the final part of the bar, an enemy has an opportunity to attack you and like delay your attack or knock you out. And you have the same opportunity with enemies as well. And that's just a really cool, like, strategic, frantic sort of battle system. And the fact that more games haven't just ripped that off of Grandia is crazy to me. I think it's a really, really cool system. This one also highlights the fact that it has a calendar system, meaning I'm assuming that similar to like Persona or maybe the Atelier, some of the older Atelier games, that you have like a time limit to achieve certain things. That doesn't bother me. I know some people don't like time limits in games. It feels stressful to them. I actually kind of like them because I feel like when a game is too open, it kind of undercuts the urgency of the story. So like if the world is being destroyed and there's this evil monster that's going to kill everybody. But then I'm running off and, I don't know, finding a bunch of cabbages to give to the farmer so that the farmer can make enough money to keep his house. And I've spent 2 hours on this side quest. It makes the sense of urgency just evaporate in the world. So I think openness in games is cool, but I think it should be worked into the story. So it does not bother me when there is a calendar, when there is a time limit to accomplish something, because that energizes me and just gives a sense of urgency to the story. And I really appreciate that. Yeah, I don't know a ton about the plot of Bestiario here. Like we've got some profiles on some of the characters, like your main dude is Axis and he's a wizard and he, I don't know, fights these monsters. He's a JRPG fan himself, which is echoes of Ichiban, right, from the Like a Dragon series. Kind of cool when you can start having characters reference or be fans of the genre of the game that they're in. Like that's evidence to me of a genre, of an art form kind of becoming mature when artists begin directly referencing other artists. Like that just, to me, it's an indicator that the genre, that the art form is growing. And I think that's cool. Yeah, but there's characters that are called myths in this game. And I don't know, there was some sort of a pandemic and these hunters like Axis, the main character, are out to beat these monsters and, you know, save the world. You know, they're not revealing a ton about the intricacies of the plot here, but it looks pretty darn cool. I'll be honest with you. There seems to be some kind of social simulation thing in here as well, maybe similar to Persona. I don't know if that means romanceable characters or just side quests that come up as you interact with NPCs or what, but social elements are fine. Like I've said before on this channel, I tend to prefer canon romances and things like that because it always ends up feeling so separate from the rest of the game when it's an optional thing based on your choices. But I don't know. They've not been super forthcoming about that, so we'll have to wait and see. Anyway, that's Bestiario. I think it looks really cool. I'm really excited to see more from this one. And let me know what you think of it down in the comments, because I don't know, this one looks like potentially a real winner to me. Now, Runa. Runa is the other one, basically the other one on this list that I had heard of. And I think I almost backed it. And I think I still can. I think it's got late backer support. So this is another one that I might just go ahead and do since it's gonna give me the option. We'll see. But Runa, this is another one of those games that's like, how are they doing this? Like, what dark magic are they using to make a game that looks like this with a team as small as they are? I think they list 3 or 4 core members of the team on the Kickstarter. I'm assuming they have other people, maybe contractors, I don't know, working on assets and stuff. But like, even so, they've made some sort of deal with some sort of demonic creature to be able to produce a game that looks like this with a team as small as they have. And I want to know what's their secret. I would like to produce amazing stuff with a small team as well. Please fill me in. The world of this game, the world of Runa here feels very like Xenoblade reminiscent to me. It's got a really impressive design. It just feels like the scope, like it could just go on forever. I'm sure it doesn't, again, because small team, but it feels really expansive in the trailer, and it's really vibrant and colorful and lively, and that's very Xenoblade to me. This is like, as I'm looking at all these games, I'm like, man, we're in a AAA indie turn-based RPG renaissance here. People complain about all of the big heavy hitter AAA RPGs going the more action route, and that's true. And they're putting out games that are maybe A or AA tier, like Octopath or Bravely Default, that are turn-based, but all of the AAA games are going action. And here we've got games that just look astonishing, that look amazing, that are basically AAA experiences in the way they're being presented here, right? Again, it's a Kickstarter, it's a trailer. I don't know what's real in the trailer, what's running on actual hardware and what is pre-rendered, but they're presenting this as the form that they're saying that this is going to be. So I'll take them at their word for now. And if it's all true, we are looking at some really high quality AAA turn-based JRPGs. That's really cool. I think that's really cool. If the big companies don't want to pursue that as much, and that's fine, that's their prerogative, they still are making great games, then I'm glad that somebody wants to continue making AAA experiences that use the more traditional turn-based combat. I like both, but I think it's great for both to exist. So this one has social links. So I'm guessing, again, like a Persona sort of deal. It's romanceable NPCs, which again is kind of a bummer to me because I prefer canon romances in a game. Like they say you're gonna have like some additional character-specific scenes and altered dialogue here and there based on who you're romancing or what your relationship level is with various people. And that's fine. That's okay. Like, that's better than nothing. But it just doesn't replace having a canon romance that the story can just incorporate naturally. And I don't know. I've found from talking about this on this channel that some people agree with me, but I think by and large, it's pretty split. So maybe you'll enjoy the fact that there's so many romanceable characters in the game. And if you do, then I'm happy for you. So there's like a hub city, I guess, where you build your base. So there's like a base building mechanic. They don't go into too much detail on that, but that's cool, I guess. I don't know. I'm not much of a base builder. If they can give me some default options that I can just throw in there and get on with the stuff that I'm more interested in, that'd be good. So you've got different elemental powers. I don't know if it's based on the character or if the one character can use multiple elements, but apparently you can use these elements outside of battle as well to solve puzzles. So that's cool that there's more things to do, more ways to interact with the world. I always like that. So this is one that kind of interestingly, like I talked about in the Bestiario game, where it has a calendar system. This is an open world game that has some, what do they call it? Calendar specific events, something like that, where sometimes you have open freedom to do whatever, but sometimes there are going to be deadlines. There's going to be things that are going to happen and you have to react. I think that's great. To me, that is like the way to handle an open world game, is give me opportunities to explore the open world and kind of screw around and do whatever I want. But when the story calls for it, then let's narrow in on that. Let's zoom in on that and do the story. Let's do the story, right? So that, I think, I'm hoping that that works out well, because that to me is the best way to go about handling a JRPG in an open world. And they specifically highlight that there's no silent protagonist. So it's like they wrote this Kickstarter for me. They wrote this specifically for me, and they must be disappointed that I haven't backed it yet. I think I might just go ahead and back it. I'm not gonna do it on camera because I don't want the pressure. I don't want the pressure, right? But I'll let you know on Twitter if I go through with it. So just keep an eye out there. All right, that's Runa. We've got a few more here. The next one is Godshard Chronicles. This is the straight up retro style, like 1632-bit action RPG on the list, I think. Is this the only one that's like straight up? Oh, there's another one that might be considered that as well. But this is like a 1632-bit retro style action RPG. And I think it looks really cool. It's got a very aesthetically pleasing look to it. Really cool pixel graphics. Glad to see this. Like, I love the AAA stuff that's being done, like I just said, with all these other games we've talked about. But I am obviously an old, so I have a lot of affection for the 1632-bit pixel graphic thing. So seeing new games being made in that style and look like competent games, right, is really refreshing. And this one has 2-player co-op, so it's kind of like, it's an action RPG, and it's sort of like a Secret of Mana sort of deal, where a second player can jump in and play as much as they want and then drop out, and then the AI just takes over the second player character again, which is really great. I know technically Secret of Mana was 3-player, but nobody had that super tap thing. Like, you didn't play Secret of Mana 3 players. Come on, don't lie, you didn't. Nobody had that. I'm comment baiting because I know somebody watching this probably did. I never got a chance to play 3-player Secret of Mana, but we did play plenty of 2-player. Me and my brother and other people would play Secret of Mana 2-player, and that's great. I think that's a ton of fun. And they emphasize in the Kickstarter that like, this is easy enough to just pick up and play. Like, if somebody's not super skilled at action RPGs, they should still be able to competently hold their own. And that's great. I love that. And the soundtrack has contributions from Noriyuki Iwadare, he's the Lunar and Grandia composer. Just great. Love that they got him to do some of the tracks. I guess Emmy Evans is singing at least one of the vocal tracks on the soundtrack. Maybe more. I'm not clear on that. But Emmy Evans is great. I'm pretty sure she sings in the Nier soundtrack, right? Correct me if I'm wrong. But I think Emmy Evans is the Nier lady. She like created that chaos language that Nier is sung in. Anyway, Emmy Evans on the soundtrack as well. That's awesome. They've already got the English VO well underway. Like they have some clips from the actors, British actors. And I was looking into this a little more because I saw that the creator of the game, the director, producer of the game was a writer. So I was like, oh, I wonder what he's written. So I looked him up, and it looks like this whole game might be based on a comic series that he's written, because there's several volumes you can buy on Amazon of Godshard Chronicles, and it looks like the same characters. So I'm curious if this is an adaptation of the comics, or if it is a sequel, or just takes place in the same world with the same characters, different story. I would love to know that, because if I get really into it, I'm sure I'll want to consume more. Anyway, that's Godshard Chronicles. The next one I have is, this one, SacriFire. SacriFire. So it's a little portmanteau. Is that the word? Portmanteau. A large trunk or suitcase. No. Definition 2. A word blending the sounds and combining the meanings of two others. Yes. So sacrifice and fire, I guess. SacriFire. See, I'm smart. I knew the word portmanteau. So yes, SacriFire is a game that looks like it's using a similar kind of that Eiyuden HD 2D sort of art style, where you've got these rich 3D background environments and then 2D characters. It feels a little more old school than Eiyuden. It doesn't feel as like shiny and polished, I guess, which is actually, I think, works in its favor. It makes screenshots feel a little more old school, and it even in the trailer, even in motion, it feels a little more, I don't know, somehow it feels more old school to me in an appealing way, if that makes sense. So I'm a big fan of the art style as I'm seeing it so far. Unfortunately, this is another one that's got Motoi Sakuraba stinking up the joint. I'm sorry. I know that he has a lot of fans, and I don't mean to offend you. I really don't, because I don't like it when people say mean stuff about stuff I like, and maybe that makes me a hypocrite. I get it. And if you want to sling some arrows at me, I get it. That's fine. I probably deserve it. But I don't find his music appealing, and people stick his name on these games as if it's like a highlight, and I'm like, oh, you're just hurting your case with me. You're just hurting your case. Are there any other people out there that feel the same as I do about Sakuraba? Like, I don't want to create an environment of negativity here, but I don't like him. I don't like his work. I'm sure he's a nice guy. Don't like his work. Anyway, and you gotta move on. This claims to have like a combination of real-time and turn-based combat. I'm not sure exactly what that means. The only thing that I can think of are like games like Trails Through Daybreak and the upcoming Metaphor, Refantasio, which have real-time combat, and then you can kind of switch to turn-based. So I don't know if that's what this is. It doesn't look like it, based on the trailer at least. But yeah, I'm not sure. Not really sure how that's going to play out, but it's an intriguing concept. This one lists, I think it listed Xenogears as one inspiration, which I'm like, yes. Awesome. Excellent. It also lists Vagrant Story as another inspiration. And on that front, I'm a little more wary. Vagrant Story is, in my mind, the epitome of game too hard. It is, I've tried multiple times to play it, and I just keep bouncing off of it because I don't get it. I think I just don't get it. And it's frustrating. And the element here that I think that they're going off of is they talk about being able to target individual body parts and using the right sort of attack or weapon against the enemy in order to maximize the chance of killing it. I don't know. I'm not one who really enjoys fine-tuning my battle setup. Like, if you have an auto-equip option for me in a game, I'm probably going to use it 9 times out of 10. I just make the number go higher. I want to put on a new weapon, and I want the number for attack power to go up. I don't want to think about the type of weapon so much and how I use it. I just want the number to get bigger, and then I know that it's good, because that's what the number getting bigger means. So I don't know. Is this going to be a game too hard situation for me? maybe, but I'm intrigued enough by the rest of it that I'm still probably going to check it out. They highlight in the storyline that there's moral complexity here, so that's cool. He's some sort of like church guy who's hunting heretics or something in this underground city called Antioch. And then there's also a spirit realm that you can travel into. And yeah, I don't know a ton about the story, but incorporating like kind of dark religious concepts into a story is like kind of a cheat code to getting my attention. So good on them because they figured it out. I'm interested in the plot. They talk about their previous game called Regalia of Kings and Men, or I don't know. Regalia, I think, is the main title that they talk about having made before this. Has anybody played that? I don't know that I've even heard of it. Let me know down in the comments if it's worth checking out, if it's how it might be similar to this or different. I would be curious to check it out just based on what I've seen of this one so far. Anyway, we're on to the last one. This last game is The White Raven. The White Raven. This is the only strategy RPG on this list, like explicitly like tactical strategy. And it looks like it has a decent amount of maybe Dungeons and Dragons style skill checks and things like that, at least based on the short trailer. I mean, again, I'm kind of extrapolating a lot from a small amount of information here. One thing to note, and I've noticed this in every game that has pixel characters, whether they're on 3D backgrounds or 2D backgrounds, what is it with animators just overdoing the idle animations on these sprite games? Every character in all of these games, the way they breathe. Like, can you imagine breathing the way the characters in these games breathe? You'd be like, I literally just threw my shoulder out doing that. I threw my shoulder out breathing like they do. That's gonna hurt for days. It's crazy to me, I feel like they're just overdoing it. Like, I get that you can. They spent so much time wondering if they could animate characters like that. They didn't spend enough time thinking about whether they should. That's the takeaway. This really hurts. Stupid bit. It wasn't even a good bit. Why did I do that? Anyway, in this one, it looks like you choose your character's backstory. So that makes me think that it's even more like a Dungeons and Dragons style of game. It's interesting in that it seems like it leans on that kind of Western style story and story presentation, but incorporates like Japanese style graphics and gameplay. So that's kind of a cool mixing of things. It's like if Baldur's Gate was anime, right? Like that's kind of what this feels like it could be. So that's intriguing to me. It also, of course, has romanceable characters because choice and weaving your own story and whatnot. So you can kind of customize your character and be able to do things your way, which is very Western. Very cool. I'm into it. Don't know a ton about the plot. You're a spirit whisperer named Jin, and you fight bad guys. Yeah, there's not a ton of information that I can find. But it looks pretty cool, and I think the combination of like Western style tropes in the storytelling and Japanese style gameplay in the tactics is pretty darn cool. So color me intrigued. Anyway, that's it. Did we get seven Kickstarter JRPGs that are up and coming that I missed out on? Some of them I may go back and back, we'll see. But what do you think? Do any of these catch your eye? Are there any that I just have not come across that you want to highlight for me? Please let me know down in the comments. I would really appreciate it. Once again, if you could like the video, if you enjoyed it, and if you could subscribe if you're not subscribed. I promise I won't bug you. I won't flood your feed. I just would love to know that you're out there, and subscribing is a great way for me to know that you're out there. I hope that this was fun for you, and maybe you learned something, heard about a game you hadn't heard of before. That'd be great. Anyway, until next time. Bye.